What's going on, guys? Tower number 9 here. We are playing a Palpatine red deck, and we are against a Boba double yellow. So this is definitely, I think, a situation where my initial thought is that as Palpatine, I'm going to end up being the control in this matchup. Boba yellow is going to be the beatdown, and I need to try and survive and hold on as best as possible. So let's see what we can do in order to do that. So this is a pretty good opening hand. I have a lot of different options. I think we resource here. The Patrolling V-Wing is normally a bad card. It can be a lot of value with Palpatine's ability, but in this sort of situation, I think I am going to resource it because I want to have stuff that's going to be more relevantly threatening against what my opponent may be playing. So we see a Viper Probe Droid. He gets to see my hand here, so open fire, Viper Probe, resupply, and Colonel Yularen. And I will play a Viper Probe Droid of my own. So we're going even here. Now, there is a chance he'll have a shoot first and be able to just trade there. It looks like he doesn't have it. We have a 7th Fleet Defender, Fet's Fire Spray, and Cunning. Okay, so the Fet's Fire Spray, not relevant at this point in the game, but a big threat for later on. Cunning, definitely a relevant card, but not for this turn. Most likely his play will end up being the 7th Fleet Defender this turn. And so he swings for the base here. Very standard play. We're just going to take the trade. Get that unit off the board. Probably we see the 7th Fleet Defender hit the field. I think against that I resupply. Yeah, the question is resupply versus playing Colonel Yularen here. Well, Yularen does heal. Resupply is slow. It gets me closer to stronger stuff, but I don't have any immediate stronger stuff there. The 7th Fleet Defender is potentially going to be a major problem for this deck to deal with. I think we actually do resupply so that we can get into I think we actually do resupply so that we can potentially draw into our counter there the card Traitorous. Although it's going to be a little risky because, well, it doesn't matter because we don't see it. But it's a little risky to play Traitorous because there is that chance that you'll get hit by the by a waylay or something to send the unit back, and the opponent then gets access to it. I'll play Colonel Yularen now, heal my base for 1. Definitely feel like I am not in a great spot against that defender. We do have some stuff that can help. So we see a Cunning played here. Kind of an odd play. Returns the Yularen and then does a random discard. Okay. As long as I don't discard Yularen, this is probably actually positive for me because I had an open fire that was low impact and I ended up discarding that. Then we play Yularen and that gets to heal again. And then he plays Greedo. Okay. Well, that's fine by me. So I could actually kill Greedo by using I can actually kill Greedo by using Palpatine's ability here if I want. Ooh, super laser tech. That's nice. Hmm. Overwhelming barrage also, so we could use, let's see, we could use the barrage. We're going to be on 6 resources, so we get to deploy Darth Vader next turn. We could use the barrage, kill Greedo, knock the shield off the interceptor. It's not that impactful though. We could also deploy the super laser tech, kill it with Palpatine's ability. If we deploy the super laser tech and kill it with Palpatine's ability, we would get to kill Greedo or knock the shield off. Then we would get an extra resource, which would not really let us do anything. Palpatine deploys on 8 resources, so we're going to have, yeah, so if we do get the super laser technician out, we get to deploy Palpatine next turn, which is something really, really favorable. But I think I want to use Yularen to just trade with Greedo here. Or so the question is, yeah, do we go for the super laser tech or do we resource it and go for the overwhelming barrage here? So the overwhelming barrage, allows me to, the Overwhelming Barrage allows me to kill Greedo without losing Yularen, put damage on, or knock the shield off the 7th Fleet Defender, potentially, I don't know. I think I want to save the Barrage. So then that means that we're probably, okay, so I think what we end up doing is we're gonna go for, we'll have Yularen kill Greedo. So that's just a very basic trade. Opponent hits base for 3. I'm going to deploy the super laser tech. Waylay, very, very weak play for my opponent, but he doesn't know that. So in this situation, that might have been a good play. Maybe he has another Waylay. Doesn't look like it. If he had had another Waylay, that would have been like a secretly very cool play because it would have allowed him to actually prevent. Well, maybe he still has it. Maybe he just hasn't shown it yet. Um, but in the current state of affairs, the super laser tech is the super laser tech was able to just be replayed with the other resources that I had available, so the waylay didn't actually prevent it. But my opponent might not have known, like, actually, my opponent extremely likely didn't know that I didn't have another valid play. So it must have seemed as if that was going to be a setback for me, whereas in fact it didn't do much. So right now we're poised to get to our end game, but we've already taken a lot of damage, maybe too much damage. Oh, there we go. Okay, Cunning. Yeah, that's a cute play. Okay, so we're gonna send the super laser tech back, and then we have the random discard actually getting the super laser tech. Okay. So he did have another way to bounce it. I think this is a really weak use of Cunning, but I can see why you would be preoccupied with trying to get the super laser tech off the field, and it might just have bought enough time. This turn I can do Vader. I can use Unit Palpatine. So Unit Palpatine is really, really good in this situation, but he might have bought enough time that it won't work out. Let's see what happens here. So we're going to go Darth Vader. We're going to search our top 10. The thing about Cunning is that it can just be +4 damage to base, and that's better, right? So using it for this sort of like kind of stalling play is not really the best possible use, I don't think. Um, Okay, so here we have some choices. So we could go super laser tech, we could go 2 Death Star Stormtroopers, and 2 Death Star Stormtroopers is going to be better than a super laser tech. So we now have 2 Death Star Stormtroopers. Vader attacks Boba. The problem, though, is I think that ultimately we don't quite have. I think we're just a little bit off. We don't quite have enough damage to stop him here. He can just push the damage to base, and ultimately we'll be able to pick up the win. So I'm going to take the initiative, but I think if he has Fet's Fire Spray, which he should have kept in hand, this is probably game over. Yep, and he has it. So he's going to be able to hit here. He's not going to be able to win this turn, but he's now in a situation where even though I can take full control of the game with like 2 actions, so in this situation, what I can do is I can play Palpatine and use Palpatine to kill Boba, put 1 damage on the fire spray, take the shield down, then I deploy Palpatine here, take over his Fet's Fire Spray, and it's basically game over. But there's just too much damage on the base, won't be able to do it in time. So that's going to be game. And this is really the weakness of Emperor Palpatine. So he has a very strong gameplay against control decks, but his ability to deal with aggro is a lot weaker than some of the others because it just takes him so long to get going. And I think if my opponent had used those cunnings to accelerate the aggression, I actually would have died more directly than if he's using that for that kind of disruption stuff. That the disruption stuff isn't really what you want to be doing when you're the beatdown. Um, okay, but let's try a second round. It looks like my opponent doesn't have a sideboard, so I'm not going to sideboard myself. I do have some cards in sideboard that would help with this matchup. But in general, I think sideboarding if your opponent isn't is not really a fair way to play. So we're just gonna run this. We're just gonna run this back with the main deck. So in terms of what I would want to be including in the sideboard, the main thing is Consortium Star Viper, which helps in space with both by having just another unit that's relevant for fighting in space, and because it has because the Consortium Star Viper does have Restore. So here I can either play the Patrolling V-Wing or the Death Star Stormtrooper. The Death Star Stormtrooper is more relevant against aggressive units that my opponent's likely to have, so we're going to go with the Death Star Stormtrooper. Opponent plays the Viper Probe, so I will show Emperor's Royal Guard, the V-Wing, and the Resupply. And I'm going to take the initiative. So this is a good first turn for me, very favorable. So because I went with the Death Star Stormtrooper rather than the Patrolling V-Wing, I end up in a situation where I have a unit that can trade with his unit, and then we're probably going to play the Super Laser Tech. I think I'm going to resource the Resupply. As much as I like Resupply, it's just too passive a thing to be doing against in this sort of situation. Okay, so we'll trade. Nice clean start. When you're on the defensive, you like to be taking trades. Opponent plays Boba Disintegrator. Okay, we'll play Super Laser Tech. And it might not look like it, but I am happy to trade those units with Tarkin Town if need be. The opponent's going to take the initiative. I'm going to go ahead and draw up 2 copies of Vader, so we probably resource one here. Now, the Imperial Interceptor and Patrolling V-Wing have some synergy. So if we can, I think there's a chance, given what my opponent was doing in the previous game, that we will see like Cunning used to exhaust to return Super Laser Tech. In this turn, it would actually be a really good play to have Cunning to return Super Laser Tech and then give Boba +4. That would be a very strong aggressive play. I don't know if the opponent has access to that, but if so, that'd be a very good move for him to make. And the key difference there is not wasting one of the cunning actions on a discard. Goes for a waylay instead. You know, not the best, not the worst. Could be a lot worse. We're just going to go for the straight replay. Does a little bit of damage to the base. I'm going to take the initiative. If he doesn't have a 2-drop to play, that waylay is really bad, or a 1-drop here. So it looks like he has Greedo probably. Okay, so having Greedo there makes that a pretty decent play. If that was his whole turn, it would be an unworthy use of a turn. Um, Okay, nice. Force choke. So we're going to be able to use this force choke to kill Boba. So we're going to lead off, of course, by trading the Super Laser Tech for Greedo. We have force choke to kill Boba. We are going to go up to 6 resources, so we'll probably. I think we're going to resource the Patrolling V-Wing since we don't really need more card draw here. Super Laser Tech trades with Greedo. What I hope to see here is some kind of cunning play to buff Boba, because we can then so if he does cunning for random discard and buff Boba, 80% of the time that's really good for us. If it doesn't discard the force choke, in other words, if it does discard the force choke, then we got unlucky. But I can force choke Boba this turn, and I can also take him out with Vader next turn if need be. It looks like he goes for the direct aggression there. So what we're going to do is play a Viper Probe, take a look at that hand, see what options he has available. Fet's Fire Spray, Cunning, and Crafty Smuggler. Okay. So the fact that he has the Cunning but didn't use it is, that probably is indicative of a good play by the opponent here in terms of saving that for a time when it's going to be more impactful. In general, forcing your opponent to do random discards isn't all that strong. So I mean, it can be strong, like if you don't have any cards or whatever. But in this sort of situation where I have a card advantage on him, a random discard wouldn't be that impactful. Um, yeah, he doesn't really have a great use for cunning here, so he can play. No, he's gonna play it anyway. Okay, I guess he's gonna bounce and random discard. Yeah, or discard random, then return to hand. Okay. He discards a Darth Vader, which we don't love to see. But overall a weak play from the opponent. We're gonna just do this forced choke. Boba's off the field. My opponent draws the card from forced choke, and we're gonna get to replay this Viper Probe. So yeah, it's kind of a weak cunning play from the opponent there. Ultimately feels like he lost some ground without much gain. Um, Did get the Vader on the random discard, which hurts, but we have relevant stuff here. So he has a Fet's Fire Spray, which we're poised to easily handle with Interceptor plus Tarkentown. He's going to bring out Boba this turn. I'm just going to take the initiative. Um, and yeah, we'll see what happens next. More damage to base. Okay. So again, we're getting closer to a position where we're going to be able to take control of the game. But like in the previous game, it's starting to get a worrisome amount of damage on the base is adding up here. And that's kind of the peril of Palpatine. It just takes so long to get your leader out that you end up in some tight spots sometimes. Luckily, we should be able to kill Boba Fett this turn with the Force Choke plus the Viper Probe Droid and having the initiative. We can probably kill Boba this turn, bring out the Emperor's Royal Guard. Yeah, okay, so kill Boba this turn. So Viper Probe hits Boba for 3. And would love to see yeah, so the opponent is doing a good job of prohibiting me from just getting the like free super easy kills, where I negate his unit, don't take damage, whatever. We're gonna just go ahead and throw out the Force Choke, get Boba off the field. And we still have the Interceptor and the Royal Guard. Probably the opponent's play will be a Fet's Fire Spray, in which case we're going to bring out the Imperial Interceptor to damage it. Um, no, goes for the base. So I think in this situation, what we do is pass. Um, yep, there's the Fire Spray. Here's the Imperial Interceptor. And now the opponent likely hits the base here. So what we're going to do is take the initiative. We get to deploy Palpatine and capture the Fet's Fire Spray, which is going to be very, very nice value. But it might be too late. We are on 21 HP here. It would be really nice to have some more HP on the base, but that's not where we are. It might just not be aggressive enough. Okay, so first action, of course, is going to be to deploy Palpatine and take control of a damaged non-leader unit. So that Fet's Fire Spray is now on our side. Palpatine with a 410 stat line, also going to be a major threat in the ground arena. But, we could dive right here to a surprise strike. That crafty smuggler is in position. Even though we're taking control of the game, there's definitely opportunities for the opponent to do something major. Ooh, nice. Cantina Bouncer returning the Fet's Fire Spray to its owner's hand. And so the opponent can't play it this turn, but that puts him in a very good spot. So what we're going to do here is Vader will, or Palpatine will attack. Um, yeah, so Palpatine will attack. Or no, what I'll do is I'll play the Emperor's Royal Guard. Or, I could also play Vader. I think we have to do the Royal Guard, though. It's really unfortunate. No, what we'll do is we'll have Palpatine attack, attacking the crafty smuggler and discarding there first. So that'll be a kill and draw a card. And Palpatine takes 2. Ooh, Power of the Dark Side. So opponent, I think, tried to play that for 3. That's not allowed. That's a 5 cost. Yeah, not a legal play. So didn't get. I did see that it was not legal, and I didn't get bamboozled by that play. So we're gonna play an Emperor's Royal Guard. I would like to play Vader, but it feels necessary to get the Royal Guard on the field. Vader has a chance of finding an Imperial Royal Guard with his ability, but I feel like I need to be more consistent. But the problem here is, well, it's going to depend on draws. The question is, do we draw something that counters Fet's Fire Spray? Yes or no? And it's, if we draw a counter, we can potentially counter that and continue the game. But if we don't draw a counter, we'll probably be defeated. So then we're going to play a Super Laser Tech as well. We don't really need the resource, but it does give another unit in case the opponent goes for that big Power of the Dark Side. Initiative is taken there, and we are going to pass. Didn't draw a counter, so that's the game. Fet's Fire Spray will win things for my opponent, unless he messes up and tries to do something cute and not just go for the kill. And that's a it's an unfortunate situation, but I think FuelTank played this well with the Cantina Bouncer to return the Fet's Fire Spray to its owner's hand after I took control of it. That was a really good play. In retrospect, I think I had seen that there was the Cantina Bouncer in hand. I arguably should have used Tarkentown to kill the Fet's Fire Spray instead of taking control of it with Palpatine. Um, yep, and he goes for the Fet's Fire Spray, and I didn't draw the counters. That's game. GG. Okay, so unfortunate situation, but let's see if we can do one more of these. And yeah, we'll do one more and see if I can win one with Palp here. But yeah, ultimately, I currently think Emperor Palpatine is actually a pretty weak deck. So he's a control deck that's really good into other control decks, but he's so slow that it feels like he has a major downside against aggro, and arguably even worse, or sorry, major downside against aggro, and arguably mid-range decks so. Boba Cunning is probably a more aggro flavored mid-range deck. And Boba Cunning, it really doesn't feel like I am able to get going fast enough to deal with it. Um, let's see here. So we'll resource one of these Vaders. We want to keep another one. Resource that Raider. And we'll lead off with Viper Probe. Take a look at the hand. Okay, so Greedo and Cartel Spacer are the opening moves. We do have a Waylay and a Fet's Fire Spray. I do know that in neither of those games I used Harkentown, which is arguably a downside. Opponent goes for the Cartel Spacer, worse card than Greedo, but probably a better play here because the Viper Probe would easily remove Greedo. So we're just going to take the initiative. Nice. Colonel Yularen, I really like to see him. We're probably going to resource this V-Wing. I think that V-Wing stuff is just a little clunky for this matchup. Neither of us have used our bases at all in either of these games. I should have used my base probably in that last game, but neither of us have. Okay, so we're just going to open fire, kill the Cartel Spacer, just get an early threat off the board. He could waylay my probe droid, but that's arguably a negative play. Goes for a defender instead. That makes a lot more sense. I don't think I have anything I can draw that immediately counters the defender. I guess he could have done waylay plus Greedo. That would actually be pretty decent. But the defender I think is a better play, and because it doesn't get me that doesn't incur card disadvantage and doesn't get me the repeated draw from the Viper Probe. Admiral Piet, Colonel Yularen. Well, that's probably what we're going to get into here to do some healing. Let's see how FuelTank runs this turn. One good play would just be an immediate attack with the Seventh Fleet Defender. Um, Arguably, this could be a situation where you use Cunning to buff the defender. That would be actually very threatening to me because this deck doesn't have a lot of good counters to those Seventh Fleet Defenders. Whoops, he goes for the direct attack. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to play Colonel Yularen and heal the base for one. This is leaving the Viper Probe Droid up, which is something that I want to do in case my opponent plays a unit that I can clear with it. Another 7th Fleet Defender instead, not what I want to see. I'm going to play Admiral Piet and heal another one. So one good thing about this turn is that I have played 2 green units with Colonel Yularen for 2 healing, which almost removes the damage from that defender, but this is going to really start adding up if we don't get a space counter. Unfortunately, green-red is, I wouldn't say it's weak in space, but green doesn't have a lot to offer in the space arena necessarily. Um, but, there are some things that we could do. So, for instance, if we see an overwhelming barrage, we're not seeing this here, though. So an overwhelming barrage would be a good option. I think what we're going to try to do is use Palpatine's ability here to deal damage to one of the fire sprays, or to the fire sprays, to one of the defenders, knock its shield off and draw a card. That seems like it might be the most prudent. That seems like it might be the most prudent choice. Next turn, we could of course draw a Raider, which would be excellent with Admiral Piet, though I think there's a good chance my opponent will clear Piet with Boba. If he doesn't, it's taking a big risk, but it's also possible that he's going to go for the risky play and just try to put pressure on the base. Okay, so opponent has the initiative. Let's see what's going to happen here. Boba Fett takes the field. I think what I do is I immediately attack Boba with this Viper probe. That way, if he buffs Boba, so there's a risk right now that he could like buff Boba with Cunning or something. If he does that, I can remove Boba with the open fire without him having a chance to attack. Boba could attack here and kill Piet. Um, that's probably the like conservative play, where the more aggressive play would just be to go for the base directly. I think you want Piet off the field though, because if Piet into ATST, Piet into Raider, there are just a lot of things that Piet could enable that would be pretty threatening to my opponent. So Piet into Raider in particular could kill one defender, and then the other defender would maybe be able to kill it, but would die itself and would also do some damage to the base. That would be a pretty good move in terms of the space arena. What I'd really like to see, of course, is Overwhelming Barrage. Okay, yeah, my opponent kills Piet. I think that's a prudent play. It does buy me a little bit of time, but I think that's a good way to play it. So what I'm going to do is, so I can open fire to kill Boba if I want. Um, yeah, I think we're gonna Viper probe, see the hand. Cunning, Waylay, Fet's Fire Spray, Crafty Smuggler. Okay. Not the best options ever, but not the worst either. We could easily see, so Cunning here to give +4 damage to one of those defenders would be probably the most dangerous thing my opponent could be doing this turn. My opponent has not really been pursuing that option, which is interesting. I think in this sort of situation, it's often the strongest thing to be doing with Cunning. When you're playing in this sort of matchup where you have to be the aggro, because your opponent has major late game inevitability. I think Cunning for the +4 is often going to be the best play. My play is probably just going to be open fire to kill Boba. Yeah, 3 damage here. I'm going to slow roll. Yularen into the base here for 2. So the reason I'm slow rolling this is that I'm hoping that my opponent, I don't want to, I mean, I guess I don't have anything that would actually, where it would actually matter. Yeah, so he's going to go for the Cunning. Random discard and +4. Okay. Lose Vader. Harsh. I guess either of those discards would have been kind of harsh. We're going to open fire and kill Boba, and then we're going to take the 7. Unfortunately, my opponent caught on to the +4 being maybe the best option here and is going to do a lot of damage. Um, we did handle Boba relatively easily, but we're at a card disadvantage, and those defenders are going to be a huge problem. Okay, so it's going to be the turn, and feeling quite behind. Ooh, a resupply. Super weak draw. Both of these cards are bad. Um, I guess what we're going to do is, I think what we do is resupply. We're just going to throw it down there, advance a turn. No, we're dead though. This is over. So the problem is we're gonna see Fett's Fire Spray, and then we're gonna see the attacks from the we're gonna see Fett's Fire Spray into attacks from those defenders, and that's gonna close the game. I won't actually die this turn, but I'll die next turn. I just don't have a counterplay. The the space stuff that I have in the deck just didn't show up for me this game, unfortunately. I would really have appreciated Imperial Interceptors, um, but they just weren't here. And that's how it goes sometimes, It is a card game. So we're going to use Palpatine's ability, discard Viper Probe, do a damage to that defender, and draw a card. We draw this Palpatine, which is a really good card, but it's not fast enough to save us. Because that's going to be another 3 damage to the base this turn, plus 5 from Fett's Fire Spray, and that will leave us on not enough life. Here's the base for 3. We're going to hit the base for 2, and then he's going to play Fett's Fire Spray, and that's going to be the game. GG. So yeah, unfortunately, I think this is pretty indicative of Palpatine gameplay, at least with this stuff. I have not seen Palpatine be successful right now, except I have heard that he works well in some situations. Um, Personally, he seems a lot worse than other control decks to me right now because like I know that he wins the control mirrors, but his ability to deal with aggro or even just aggressive mid range, as we saw in this game from FuelTank. So Boba Green is that kind of classic mid range. Boba Yellow is more of an aggressive mid range or tempo deck. It has a lot of stuff that like it's not really a like aggro deck in the same way that like Leia or Sabine is, but it has a lot of disruptive plays and a lot of stuff that can give it more attack power. Um, and ultimately, Palpatine was just too slow. We only even got to get Palpatine on the field in one game, and when we did, FuelTank had a good counter. Now, to be fair, you might say, well, if you had Tarkentown that Fett's Fire Spray instead of going for Palpatine to take it over, you wouldn't have been susceptible to that Cantina Bouncer play. But even so, let's say I do that, he doesn't draw another Fett's Fire Spray, and I win game 2. Yeah, let's say that happens, I still lose the set, still lose the third game. And yeah, having the sideboard would help, but I don't know. It doesn't feel to me that Palpatine is in a good spot, at least with this composition. Maybe what you have to do is go like Palpatine Blue. So Palpatine Blue, you could potentially be running Super Laser Blast. The problem is Super Laser Blast isn't actually a very good card against aggro because you die before you get a chance to actually play it, but it would help at least some. Um, So like in this situation that we have right here, if this remaining card in my hand was Super Laser Blast instead of Emperor Palpatine, I could at least clear the board, bring out Palpatine, maybe be in a good spot. Is it good enough? I don't know. You could be playing. Perhaps more importantly, you could be playing cards like Make an Opening, which is a great counter to those defenders. You could be playing System Patrolcraft to shore up your weak space arena. You could be playing some of the other blue removal cards, the takedown, maybe even vanquish, it does give you some more removal options. I was hoping that the red options were going to be stronger here. I do think that Tarkentown is a much stronger base than the security complex. So I would rather be playing red than blue if possible because of the base advantage that you get. But I don't know, maybe you need to play like 30 HP blue base Palpatine. You get some healing options there. You get some more removal and just try harder to make it to the late game. So that's maybe going to be the next Palpatine deck that I try out. But overall, at least this red Palpatine really doesn't feel like it has what it takes against aggro and even aggressive mid-range or tempo type stuff like what we saw from FuelTank here today. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. Thanks to y'all for watching. We'll be back later with some more Star Wars Unlimited content, and we'll catch you guys later.